You feel the shift before you can name it. A sudden tightening in the chest, a slight sharpening at the edges of your awareness, and then the internal noise begins. It isn't a slow build, it's an immediate flood. Your attention is no longer on the room, the conversation, or the task in front of you. It is entirely consumed by a single urgent directive. Fix this feeling. This is the moment of acute escalation. It feels like a malfunction, but it is actually a sophisticated internal system hitting a high alert toggle. Most people believe the problem is the anxiety itself, the racing heart, the intrusive thought, the chest that won't loosen. But the real friction, the part that actually exhausts you, is the desperate and immediate pressure to force it to stop. The instinct to calm down is often the very thing that keeps the alarm ringing, because to your nervous system, the act of trying to suppress a feeling is confirmation that the feeling is dangerous. You are effectively telling your brain, you were right to be alert. Look how hard I'm working to escape this. Listen to the script that starts running the second the discomfort hits. Why do I feel like this right now? I was fine 10 minutes ago. I need to calm down. What if this doesn't go away? These are not just thoughts. They are attempts at cognitive control. As your mind is trying to narrate its way out of a physiological state. You are searching for a reason, because you believe that if you can locate the cause, you can find the off switch. You scan your recent conversations, your health, your future, looking for the variable that justifies the surge. You might have told yourself at some point, I just think too much, or my brain never shuts off. You have started to wear these statements as a kind of identity. You call yourself an anxious person as a way to stay mentally prepared, because if you accept that anxiety is simply who you are, the constant scanning feels like a necessary chore rather than a defensive loop you are caught inside. But you are not thinking too much because something is wrong with you. You are thinking too much because your mind is trying to protect you from a threat it hasn't identified yet. Here is the shift in perspective that changes how the rest of this lands. Your mind is not panicking randomly. It is running a protection protocol. When your system detects a flicker of vulnerability, a hint of fatigue, a moment of uncertainty, a vague social friction, it triggers a control reflex. It wants to scan, solve, and stabilize. It treats an internal emotional state the same way it would treat a physical intruder. It locks the doors and begins the interrogation. The irony is that this attempt to regain certainty is exactly what creates the spin. Or the more you analyze the anxiety, the more data you give the brain to be concerned about. The search for calm becomes the fuel for the loop. The fastest way to calm the mind is often the opposite of trying to control it. This sounds counterintuitive. It may even feel dangerous because the system believes that if it stops controlling, something will unravel. But that belief is part of the mechanism, not a warning from outside it. Look at the loop with some intellectual distance, and it follows a predictable sequence. And once you can see the sequence clearly, it begins to lose its authority. A sensation appears. It might be physical, a flutter, a tightness, or it might be a thought that lands and refuses to leave. The mind immediately searches for an explanation. Why is this here? Where did it come from? The urgency increases. Because no immediate answer arrives, the mind concludes that the threat must be hidden and therefore more serious. Control attempts begin. Yet you try to breathe correctly. You try to think your way to calm. You try to rationalize the feeling into disappearing. The system then interprets your urgency as confirmation of danger. If you are working this hard to manage yourself, there must be something genuinely wrong. The loop restarts, usually with more intensity than before. You were not managing the anxiety. You were feeding the system that produces it. This is where the pattern requires something that feels uncomfortable at first. Not a technique, not a sequence of steps, a single shift in behavior. Stop treating the sensation as a problem that requires immediate resolution. When you stop urgently managing the feeling, when you are no longer searching, demanding, analyzing, the protection system receives a different message. The threat assessment is no longer being escalated, and without an active escalation signal, the system has no instruction to keep running. Calm is not something you do. A calm is what remains when you stop managing the system. There is a harder thing underneath all of this, and it involves identity. You have likely spent years believing that your vigilance is what keeps you functioning, that if you weren't on top of your anxiety, monitoring it, trying to contain it, you would fall apart or lose ground somewhere important. But you are not an anxious person. You are a person whose mind is running a very capable protection response. Those are different things. Yeah, the first is a fixed description of who you are. The second is a process. And processes can be observed without being inhabited. Think of it this way. Your mind has a guardian. Every time anxiety spikes, every time the thoughts accelerate, the guardian is responding. It raises the shield. It scans for the threat. It does this because it is trying to ensure your survival. It is not working against you, yet it is working for a version of you that needed this kind of protection. And it hasn't yet received the signal that the context has changed. Relief doesn't come when the anxiety disappears. Relief comes when the protection system stops detecting resistance from you. When you stop fighting the guardian eventually registers that there is no war being fought. It lowers the shield, not because you forced it to, but because the evidence of danger stopped arriving. Yet the calming habit works because it removes the instruction that was keeping the system active. You stop confirming the emergency. And without confirmation, the emergency loses its structure. Anxiety is an old inheritance. It is a form of survival awareness, a persistent environmental scanning that kept human beings alive in worlds that were far more physically unpredictable than the one most of us move through now. The system that produces anxiety evolved alongside real and immediate threats. It was precise. It was necessary. That same system is still inside you, intact, doing exactly what it was built to do. The difficulty is the mismatch between the environment it was designed for and the environment it now operates in. Internal emotional states trigger the same alertness that once responded to physical danger. And so, you feel the urgency of survival inside an ordinary room during an ordinary afternoon for no reason you can locate. That is not weakness. Yet that is a biological system encountering a context it was not built for. Understanding this does not eliminate the feeling, but it changes the relationship to it. You can observe the guardian slamming the doors and locking the windows, and you can simply remain in the room and notice that despite the noise, nothing is actually breaking. And the next time the escalation begins, the moment the chest tightens or the thoughts start to race, see if you can identify the urge to fix it before you act on it. Notice the part of you that wants to enter the loop and find the answer. Notice the pull toward control. You don't need to force stillness. You don't need to manufacture calm. You only need to recognize what is happening and choose not to confirm it as an emergency. The sensation will peak, then it will move, while the guardian will finish the check. And when it finds no resistance from you, no urgent signal to keep processing, it will stand down. Not because you made it, because you stopped insisting that it had to. You are not failing when anxiety arrives. You are not broken because it returns. You are not the loop. Patterns protect before they limit. Your mind chose safety. You are reacting, not failing.